Video from my 2024 trip to Dumaguete and Bohol Philippines. This is one of my favorite places to dive. The variety of life here is amazing. This is a shot of one of the various species of Shan the sheep. Here's another one, and this gives you a little bit of context for just how tiny these creatures are. That metal stick is about the diameter of a pencil. The area is mostly a rocky reef or muck dive, and the variety of life is absolutely amazing. Here we see a long-spined pufferfish waiting among the rocks, hiding. The filigree of his eye is amazing. Here we see a different variety of pufferfish. There were quite a few in the area. But of all the fish in the area, by far my favorite are the frogfish. Here we see a juvenile black frogfish walking along the sand. As you can see, there was quite a bit of current. The variety of frogfish is astounding. Here is a painted frogfish with a bunch of filigree all across its body. They mirror stones if you don't see them. Here are juvenile clownfish eggs. The one fish I've ever been bitten by, repeatedly, are saddleback clownfish, usually when I'm videoing their eggs. Here is the classic Nemo, the Ocellaris clownfish, swimming in a magnificent anemone. One of my favorite things. This is what's called a snake eel. This was a rare opportunity to see one of them outside of its burrow. Usually you only see from about the bottom of the jawline up, and they point their snout towards the surface, but for some reason this one was out. There were a number of cephalopods in the area, and in my opinion, one of the cutest, or at least the most animated, is this, a coconut octopus. You can tell it's a coconut octopus by the iridescent sheen along its suckers. Coconut octopus take objects such as clam shells or even coconut shells, which is where they get their namesake from, and use them as shelters. It's not uncommon for dive guides to try to trade them pieces of trash that they're using for actual shells in order to clean up the ocean. They're so cute and they're so intelligent. It's amazing they only live for about a year and a half. One of the larger cephalopods is the broad club cuttlefish. This particular specimen was maybe a foot or foot and a half long. In the Philippines, you can see them of all sizes, and the intelligence is absolutely remarkable. You know when they're looking at you, there's a thought process that's going on. Up next, you see a juvenile version of one trying to hide in some seaweed. This little fellow was maybe 3 inches long, if that. Absolutely adorable. One of the claims to fame of the area are the crustaceans. Here we see a pair of harlequin shrimp hiding in a sponge. These actually eat the blue sea stars and are used by aquarists to take care of Astorina starfish problems. They are quite beautiful. This little fellow, who was barely larger than a grain of rice, is what's known as a Donald Duck shrimp. They're fairly uncommon, and they get their name from the large proboscis that sticks out the front of the shrimp. This is a soft coral crab, and its evolutionary camouflage is unbelievable. It takes quite the trained eye to be able to pick them out from this soft coral which they inhabit. One of my favorite crustaceans is the porcelain crab. Here you can see one filter feeding while attached to carpet anemone. These are also popular in the aquarium trade, and they feed by putting out these little nets and catching detritus in the current. The emperor shrimp live on large sea cucumbers. Sometimes guides will flip over the sea cucumbers in order to try to find the emperor shrimp. They're quite colorful and very animated. But of course, one of the highlights of Southeast Asia are the nudibranchs. We saw tons and tons and tons of tiny, tiny nudibranchs. And I was asking the guide, where are the big ones? And on that very dive, we came across this fella. This is a panda nudibranch. This was about 4 inches long. Here you can see an up-close shot of the rhinophores, which are the smelling apparatus of the nudibranch. Here's an up-close shot of the serrata. This is what they breathe through. These are actually the gill plumes and where they get their name, which stands for naked lungs. While the panda nudibranch may not be very colorful, the Nembrothus species are absolutely magnificent. This was actually in Bohol during some bonus dives. This is my favorite of the Nembrothus species. Where do you see orange like that in nature? This green sea turtle was filmed in Bohol, which is fairly close to Dumaguete. Green sea turtles are plentiful in the area, and there are certain dive sites that are well-known resting places or feeding grounds for them. Bohol is also home to a number of sea snakes. Here, a banded sea crate swam right by my shoulder and planted itself on the ocean floor right next to me. It allowed me to get this absolutely amazing shot of the snake.